Hello, my Fiscal Challenge friends. I want to provide you with some tips as you're preparing for this year's competition. Specifically, I want to talk about data. Now, your object of interest is the debt to GDP ratio. Where do you find that data? I want to share a screen and take you to FRED, which is a database hosted for free by the St. Louis Federal Reserve. It's a great repository. A couple of keystrokes and we can look up various measures of debt to GDP. There's household debt, federal debt, total public, outstanding private debt. The laundry list goes on and on. This might be confusing as you begin your process, so I want to guide you a little bit here. I called up one of the series. It's called Federal Debt. Total public debt as a percent of gross domestic product. There's a mnemonic here, so you could always reference it and look it up. Vertical axis is the percent of GDP, shaded regions are recessions, and the most recent data point over here is about 120%. There's another one that was on that long list of items. Federal debt held by the public as a percent of gross domestic product, and that most recent data point is about 95%. Now those two sounded awfully similar, and they look similar. In fact, when you overlay them, their movements are almost identical. Which one should you use, the blue or the red, the blue or the red? Actually, there's a cool article from the FRED blog, A Lesson in Measuring the Federal Debt, goes back to 2019, and they talk about the differences between those two. And if you scroll down here, in this paragraph, it walks you through the differences. The basic story is that the federal government issues debt. Sometimes private stakeholders buy that debt. Sometimes other federal agencies buy that debt. So the total debt includes both the private as well as that which is purchased by federal agencies. What we want is only the blue, that which is going to be focused on and purchased by the private stakeholders. Now, that doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. That's the one where most of the policy discourse is revolving. So that's the one where we will focus. Federal debt held by the public as a percent of GDP. Now, I want you to go further as you're working on your proposals. It's a fraction, right? Numerator, denominator, debt to GDP. How do you get those series so you can plan a little bit better? If you scroll down, you can see the actual specification used. These are mnemonics from the FRED database. They show you the specification, and you could call up each of these series. For the numerator, federal debt held by the public, $24 trillion. This is in millions of dollars on the vertical, and you could see its rapid ascent during the COVID crisis. And what you could do, like most nice FRED graphs, is you could go ahead and change it if you want, so you could see the movements through time, and particularly the spikes around COVID. Let's go back to that formula, and the other piece is gross domestic product. Now, there's many different measures of gross domestic product that are commonly available to us. The one that I want to show you that's used here is simply titled GDP, gross domestic product. That is not the one that you typically hear about. The one that you most often hear about is real GDP. Even if people don't say it, that's typically what they mean. Now, if you remember, there's a difference between real and nominal. Real, inflation adjusted. Nominal, no inflation adjustment. The colloquialism can get confusing because colloquially we often think of the real. In this fraction, debt to GDP, we want nominal GDP in the denominator. Now, unfortunately, the way it's labeled, it doesn't have a prefix nominal. Simply writing gross domestic product in this context means nominal. All right, so we want federal debt held by the public divided by nominal GDP. Hope that helps. Good luck.